Well, of course, Jim, Braun Strowman wasn't the only name released this past week, and I'll read you here from a text message that went out to talent from John Laurinaitis, as reported by Mike Johnson, a PW Insider. The quote, or I guess the text, due to budget cuts, the following talent were released today: Braun Strowman, Lana, Buddy Murphy. Oh, he's Buddy again. Wasn't he just Murphy? But Buddy Murphy.
I thought he was just Buddy.
Santana Garrett, Ruby Riott, and Aleister Black, and it signed John Laurinaitis. So, Jim?
Yeah, by the way, wasn't that a nice, warm way to do it? Instead of even, I mean, if you're going to just tweet the entire talent roster to tell them that their compatriots got fired, unfortunately, guys, I'd like to let our WWE roster family know that due to the ongoing budget cuts, these guys and girls had to be released today. Boom, boom, boom. And we really wish them well. Just a fucking prickish statement by a prickish person on behalf of a prickish company.
These people are gone. Say goodbye.
He could have put that like that on his own, and I'm sure nobody would have groused at him about it, but instead he just did exactly the sum total and no more of what he was told to do, which was tell the talent these people have been released.
So let's take it a step back without even talking about any of the specific talent, although we could. The idea that, again, record profits, they got a lot of interesting things happening, a lot of executives coming and going, executives working out of California now, more prominently than ever before maybe in company history.
The head man just spent $8 million on a little shack out there on the beach.
That's right. And in the midst of all that, again, Braun Strowman making $1.2 million downside, I believe. And then others, and you got to think some of them may be making good money. Some of them maybe not, but released right now. Should the WWE not release anyone with the record profits? Is it the time to release someone right now? And what are your overall takes on this period of time with WWE and what's going on with the inner workings of the company as it relates to these layoffs?
With these guys and girls, you can see, except for Strowman, nobody was really a shock. Maybe Lana to some lesser extent, but I mean, she's been there apparently a while. Remember, she had an accent, then she didn't. She was Russian, then she wasn't. Then her husband leaves and goes to the other company, so they put her through a table 8 weeks in a row on Raw, and then Nia Jax breaks her whole. What the fuck? You always have to change talent. It's not that they shouldn't ever let anybody go, either office people or wrestlers. You know, with the office people, I think it was just shitty that they didn't fire any of the office people because they were bad at their jobs. They fired the office people because they created those positions and got people to come there and work for anywhere from a year to fucking, some of those people been there for 10 years and then decided they just didn't need those positions. There's an element of blow me with that, especially when they're making record profits. They could have done it a little nicer and a little more gradually, one would think. But of course, they're a real company now, Pinocchio. They're not only publicly traded, but this shit, as you can tell, is a lot of it's leaving Vince's hands and his plate, and they're setting it up to sell and make a theme park out of. As Mike Johnson at PW Insider wrote the column here just today on, well, what would happen if the WWE was sold to Disney? And he had theme parks and Stone Cold Steve Austin rattlesnake rides where the fucking the buggy on the roller coaster goes into a rattlesnake's mouth, and that's probably where they're going.
Nah, Disney would be the worst possible owner for WWE.
Well, I'm just saying, whatever. It's going to be some. If it's been this bad and Vince was still in charge, can you imagine when actual Hollywood gets in charge of this shit?
Yeah, it'll be like WCW in 1990.
Well, there you go. Yeah, only on a much bigger scale. But that's the thing. You've always got to let talent go. And let's face it. Was he Buddy? Was he Murphy? Was he Buddy Murphy? They haven't done anything with him in ages. Instead of just having him sit in a closet somewhere, if he wants to be in the wrestling business going forward, maybe he can go out and find someplace else where he's more needed and appreciated. Same thing for Santana Garrett, who I've never seen before. The same thing for Ruby Riott. Same thing for Lana. If she probably fits in the category because she never, to my knowledge, was in the wrestling business before WWE, right?
No.
Was Miro in the wrestling business before WWE?
To an extent, I believe, without knowing everything, he was originally trained not by the Performance Center, but by Rikishi, I think.
Okay.
So he came out of like the Samoan school in one way or the other.
Maybe she got in the business just because he was in the business or just because she wanted to be a TV star. Who knows? I'm sure she'll take independent bookings.
I don't think they got together until they were put together in developmental. She was a dancer, an actress, doing various things, pretty girl, athletic. And I think it was one of those type of things where they signed someone like that to see if they can get anything out of it. And she actually was really good. She was really good in the role of Lana, the ravishing Russian, I believe she was called. She had the accent going all right. And then they just killed every bit of that worked. Because then all of a sudden she wasn't Russian. She has no accent whatsoever. She's on a reality show with her husband, who in storyline, she's cheating on with Bobby Lashley and they're doing all this embarrassing stuff. But you see on the reality show, it's her husband. They're doing other things.
So the point is they got out of her whatever they were going to get. And probably a little bit more. So,
I think she got out of them everything she was going to get too. And
yeah.
Because they were, her, maybe even more than her husband, big on the third-party deals. Like, they were doing well with third-party sponsorships that they were doing on their own. It's one of the reasons The Office cut down on it. I wonder if that played a role in this, actually.
Regardless, the only surprise, and we mentioned Strowman because he's making $1.2 million and they don't care to offer money to keep people from going to AEW anymore. Which is why they're not. And if that, by the way, doesn't let anybody know something, 2 years ago, they were giving middle card guys $600,000-$700,000 a year when their contract was up. Multiple years. We want to renegotiate if they weren't even up. We want to do this and that. And now, when they've seen what their competition actually is and what they've done, they're firing their top guys just because they've used them up. They don't give a shit whether they go somewhere anymore. So that's obviously telling. But the surprise to me was Aleister Black. Because they just said that creative changed their mind, did everything for him. Vince didn't have anything for him, whatever. They had been starting things, but it wasn't like he was making a ridiculous amount of money as reported. It wasn't like that he fucked anything up. They just decided, we don't really want to use this guy. That's kind of surprising.
Vince didn't get him, which is never a good thing. Plus, we probably need to bring up the fact that his wife was Zelina Vega, Thea Trinidad.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Going back to the third-party deals and everything. I mean, it's funny. I didn't even think about it, but there's two different cases here that tie back to that in one way or the other. But that's his wife. He's a very talented guy, a good wrestler. Again, it becomes a weird situation where you got a lot of these guys that were, I don't know if misused, underused, used incorrectly on their roster. Some who have been worn down because it's been happening for so many years. Others who, they were beaten, but never beaten so badly just because it was start and stop and nothing ever really made sense. I mean, it's not like AEW can sign all these guys. We're going to talk about Andrade later, but I mean, that's
they're adding another show on Friday night, and Lord knows we read the roster that usually competes on Dark on YouTube, and they can't put those people on television. So I agree with you. They can't take all of them. It would make no sense, but nothing they've done makes sense up until now. And I think that our fantasy booker is going to go to his dad and say, oh, shit, we've got a new TV show. I've got to sign a bunch more action figures. I mean, wrestlers. And they'll pick up a bunch of them, and it'll be the same ridiculous stop and start booking that we see on Wednesday nights on Friday, where you see a guy and then you don't see him for 3 months, and then he comes back and does something completely different. And then they say, well, we just don't have enough time to expose all our talent.
It's too bad Ring of Honor doesn't have their shit together right now. There'd be such a good market to get some guys.
Boy, If much as I told Dutch Mantell one time, why is it that the people with the money don't know how and the people that know how don't have the money? If you could use Ring of Honor's serious wrestling presentation that they were doing on their Pure tournament, etc., with some of the actual talent that's available and or that could be produced properly even in AEW, you might have a fucking combination there.
I did see some quotes from Aleister Black. Did you see any of the things that he said? I think it was on a Twitch stream on his wife's Twitch account.
You know what? I forgot to watch his wife twitching that day. I didn't see or hear anything.
Comes across a bit naive to me, but I'll get your thoughts.
Uh-oh.
Here's the quote. Being on the main roster, in all my conversations with Vince, he was always positive. I had a good relationship with Vince. I always told him how I felt, and he respected that about me. He always praised me on my creativity and manners of respect, but being honest about how I felt. From my point of view, I always felt Vince was always high on me. You get a lot of that, guys that leave there and think that, Vince wanted to keep me, but there were these forces bigger than Vince that prevented that from happening.
Let me just say this. Yes, Vince is often complimentary about things whether he really likes it or not, he's often complimentary. Sometimes he does the compliment sandwich thing, but if he was always complimentary, especially about your manners and matters of respect and etc., and your creativity, and never critiqued you and never disagreed with you and never tried to talk you out of doing anything, he didn't give a fuck. He did not. He was humoring you to get you away from him. If that's the impression that Aleister Black got from Vince, and Vince was just, hey, pat on the back and see you later, because he wasn't really paying any attention. If he wasn't critiquing or trying to get you to do something that you probably didn't want to do, and yes, and like you say, when they say Vince always liked me, but creative did. Well, who hires the fucking writers?
Who are they writing for?
Yes, who are they writing for? And who can go and tell them, hey, write this knucklehead in the show?